Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the second tutorial of this semester, spring 2021. The first tutorial is generally before the midterm, covering material from the beginning till the midterm. The second tutorial is before the final exams, so generally it covers the material later on, and it is a sort of a preparation for your final exam. We will start by solving the midterm, so it will be a solution of the midterm as well as also a tutorial session where you are solving different problems. The first question is, of course, the multiple choice question from different chapters. Most important material property for high-speed civil transport is what? Temperature resistance, impact strength, hardness, all of the above. So if you remember that when there is a large civil transport carrying 300, 400 people, this is very large in size, and it is traveling at the speeds of sound and above, high speed, right? Mach 2, Mach 3 and so on. So the most important problem becomes the friction on the body with the air, which generates a lot of heat. So temperature resistance would be your answer. Metal alloys such as this are used in biomedical applications. Titanium alloys, stainless steel, cobalt alloys, and all of these. So if you had gone through this introduction chapter well, then you will see that all the three, titanium, stainless steel, cobalt, all these alloys are used in biomedical applications. So the correct answer will be all of these. Toughness will be high for which one? High strength brittle material, low strength ductile material, good strength ductile material, all three. What do you think? See, high strength brittle material. Strength is high, but it is brittle, so the ductility is very small. So the area under the curve is small. Low strength ductile material. Strength is low, so the height of the curve is small. Ductility is good. The area under the curve is still small. Good strength ductile material. The strength is high, so the vertical side is high, and the ductility is also high. So the area would be largest under this one. Good strength ductile material. So toughness will be high because toughness is the area under the stress strain curve. Okay. Curves for true stress and engineering stress are almost the same in the elastic region because what? Loads are large, loads are small, strains are large, strains are small. Sorry for the slight mishap on the previous page. I was reading this question, right? Curves for true stress and engineering stress are almost the same in the elastic region because loads are large, loads are small, strains are large, strains are small. So if you remember, right, you have the stress strain diagram, and one is true and the other is engineering. Later on, in this later part, the true strain curve, true stress, true strain curve is much higher than the other one. But in the straight line region, in the elastic region, both curves have almost the same line. We can't differentiate whether it is the true curve or the engineering curve. So what is the region? What is the reason? Not because loads are large later on, not because loads are small, not because strains are large, strains are small. Strains are small. When it is in the elastic region, strains are very, very small. So on the horizontal side, there is very small distance. So in that very small distance on the horizontal side, the straight lines just almost 100% coincide. So your answer is strains are small. This is the reason that true stress and engineering stress curves are the same in the elastic region. When reflected rays in XRD are in phase, we get what? Destructive interference, constructive interference, reinforced beams. So, right, they are in phase, so it is not destructive, it is constructive. But for constructive interference, there is another name called reinforced beams. The two beams are reinforced by each other. So the answer is CI and RB, constructive interference and reinforced beams, because they both mean that the light will be seen now because a strong light beam is being there. It is not destroyed. A dash is used for the measurement of angle of diffraction. A very simple thing. Goniometer, optical microscope, X-ray diffractometer, electron microscope. So if you had studied your X-ray diffractometer, then the small device inside the X-ray diffractometer which measures the angle of diffraction is called the goniometer, right? Let us now move to some true-false questions. And again, let me emphasize that in the midterms and so on, there is a large question bank from which you get questions. So the multiple choice and the true-false that we are doing here are only a few samples. Some of the others that you may have got in the exam will be different. High strength alloy steel is a special non-ferrous metal, right? High strength low alloy steel is a special non-ferrous metal. So now you see steels are all ferrous metals. So it is a very special alloy, but it cannot be non-ferrous. So false, right? Materials used in medical devices or in contact with biological systems are called electronic materials. So even if you have not gone through the text and the book and the chapter and so on, materials used in medical devices or biological systems would be biomedical materials. They cannot be electronic materials, right? So again, false. Hardening heat treatment increases the strength and decreases the percent elongation of a metal. When you harden a material, obviously the strength increases. Strength and hardness go together. And when the material is harder, then its ductility is smaller. So percent elongation is ductility. So yes, when you harden the material, the strength increases and the ductility or the percent elongation decreases. So it must be true. BCC and HCP metals have close packed crystal structure. So if you remember crystal structures, BCC is not close packed. FCC, face centered cubic, and HCP are close packed. So what is the statement? False. Plastic deformation changes grain shape and dislocation arrangement. So yes, you have, if you remember, plastic, when you plastically deform, then the shape of the grain will be changed and the dislocation arrangement will also be changed. So it must be true. Okay. Very rapid cooling of metals can produce amorphous structure or metallic glass. Very rapid cooling of metals. So this is towards the very end of the chapter where we are talking of very special materials, that there is a metal, metals are always crystalline, but there is a metal which will become amorphous, which will become non-crystalline, or you also call it metallic glass, right? So this is a very special case. And what should be the answer? Yes, true. This is the only technique that you cool the material very, very rapidly, so rapidly that the material does not get the time to form crystals or grains. So it is an amorphous material and it is also called metallic glass. We will now move on to the third question in this tutorial. This is one of the midterm questions. Plot of load against extension is shown below for an automobile alloy, together with all dimensions for the tension specimen used. Find the elastic modulus and the ultimate strength and plastic portion of the strain at fracture. Hint: for any point in the plastic region, a strain can be divided into an elastic and a plastic portion. Those of you who solved it correctly already know it. Those of you who were in some doubt, hopefully they will learn more as we discuss it. And even those who solved it almost correctly maybe will benefit from the explanations, right? So first thing is that you see the diagram, a stress strain diagram is not given. Load is given and extension is given. Load is a force in pounds, and extension, the change in length, the increase in length in inches, right? So it is a pounds inch system. It is not a kilonewton meter system. That is one thing. And it is not a stress, force is given, and it is not a strain, only distance is given and the curve is there. So for each point that is given, this is the force in pounds, and this is the extension, the change in length, right? The current length, extension in inches. So this is, then this is the tension sample, right? The dog bone sample, which is the standard one. And this is the length. If you remember, this 2 inch is the gauge length. So the strain is measured only in this length. The whole length of the piece is not used in measuring the strain. The strain is used only by this one. So if an extension is given, then that divided by this will be the strain, right? Change in length upon length. So the change in length is given there, and the original length is 2. So that will be the strain every time. The cross-sectional area of this is here, right? This is the front view, but on the thickness side, this and the thickness is 0.5 into 0.03. So the cross-sectional area that you will need to find the stress is 0.03 multiplied by 0.5 inch. So this is the original area, A naught, 0.03 into 0.5 inch. Whatever the value is the capital A naught, the original area, and 2 inch is the original length, L naught. So now from any of these points, if you find the stress, the load, if you find the load in pounds, divide it by this cross-sectional area in inches square, you will get pound per square inch as the stress. And from any point, if you get the extension or the change in length, then delta L upon L naught. So 0.4 upon 2, you will get the strain. So this is one thing that you should be very much aware of, that it was a load and extension diagram. I am showing this diagram just a little larger, just to find a few values. You can see very clearly this is the straight line region. This is the end of the straight line region, and from here now the non-straight line starts. So this is the end of the straight line region. So to find the yield point and so on, you find this point. What is this point? 405 is the load and 0.0018 is the strain at the end of the straight line region. The maximum point here, this is 741, this is 745. So the maximum point is 745. See all of the points, this is the maximum. So from here you will find the ultimate strength. Ultimate strength will be from this point. This is the fracture point. So this is the fracture load from where you will find the fracture stress if it is required, and this is the fracture strain. Strain at fracture, right? So for yield you find this point, for ultimate you find this point, for fracture you find this point, and every time the load is to be divided by the cross-sectional area to get the stress, and the elongation or change in length is to be divided by the original gauge length to find the strain, and then things are pretty simple. If you do that, then the things are pretty simple.